This
Meeting to
conference will
order.
now be recorded.
The first thing on the agenda will be the invocation, which will be given by John Schaefer from the Discovery Church.
How y'all doing? Thank you for having me. I just want to read a scripture first from 1 Timothy 2, verses 1 and 2. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for tonight. We thank you, God, that we are in a town that starts their business meetings with you first. God, we ask for your presence here tonight, Lord. We pray for this agenda tonight, God. We pray for unity here tonight, Lord, and God, just for your presence always here and after. So, God, we just thank you and just lead and guide this meeting in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next thing is I have motions relating to the agenda.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove item number 12, executive session. Through other discussions, we decided that's a bit premature, and we will defer that discussion until next time.
Second.
Okay, is there any comments on it? Mr. Stamey?
Yes. Yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Cracklaw?
Yes.
Kinkin?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
And I'm yes also. So that will be taken out. There will be no executive session this evening. And there is no public hearing tonight. And the next thing is the minutes approval. And this is the minutes approval for August 18th, the workshop meeting, August 22nd, a workshop meeting, and August 23rd, the regular meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from August 18th workshop, August 22nd workshop, and August 23rd regular meeting as presented.
Second.
Any conversation or any discussion before we vote? Mr. Stamey?
Yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Cracklaw?
Yes.
Kinkin?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
And I'm yes also. So those three things passed. The next thing on the agenda is public comments, and these are public comments relating to agenda items only. Each speaker has a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Larry McKean, 6th Avenue South. I'm looking a little tired because I'm getting tired of talking about it the right away again. First of all, the document that you have on the agenda says red line document, which is supposed to show the changes you've made, but you see there's changes made on this page that aren't marked in red. So how do, most people aren't going to realize what you've done and since the last time you talked about this. However, I know what you've done, so that's all right. I'm just going to skip to D because I have no problem with A, B, or C. Encroachment permits may be granted for driveways, pathways, blah, 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 in the right-of-way. At locations where right-of-way exceeds 3 feet from the edge of the roadway, encroachment permits may be granted for soft landscaping not to exceed 36 inches in height, planted beyond the clear zone, not to impede the line of sight traffic movement. Great. In no instance shall a permit be granted for permanent structures or fixtures, fences, trees, capital T, signage, walls, and other items anchored to the ground. Have you guys ever walked down Surfside Drive? I keep bringing this up, but you realize everything inside the walkway, the sidewalk, is in the right of way. there's a lot of trees there. You're requiring these to be cut down by this regulation. But you're going to punish everyone else in town. Well, they're residents on Surfside Drive, so you're going to punish them. I guess they have to cut those trees down. But anyways, I'm just getting tired of this. Why don't you just get a group together that has open minds instead of a preconceived idea of what they want for this town, and go over this. Get a few residents. There's lots of residents interested in this. I might even volunteer. And go over this and try to figure out something that the township residents like and won't be angry with you once you pass it. I can see lots of lawsuits coming. I have a little obstruction in my way, but if you want to knock it out, go ahead, make my street a little uglier. That's fine. But there are going to be people that are going to look at Surfside Drive. You haven't cut those trees down. Why do I have to cut my trees down? From what I understand, there was a court case that some of you are concerned about that ruled the town doesn't enforce that uniformly, so they threw it out. Guess what's going to happen? You don't clear Surfside Drive, you're going to lose a lot of court cases. And perhaps the residents will get together and get one lawyer and file 300 suits because there's at least 300 properties out there that have stuff in the right of way. You guys can deal with that. Our lawyer can deal with that. But anyways, I just suggest pass this thing, take out 1221 until you can get something reasonable that you're comfortable with and that the residents are comfortable with. Because they'll remember, when some of you are up for re-election. I don't plan on running, but I'll help whoever runs against anyone who votes for this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sean Fallon at 411 Cedar Drive North. Once again, I don't know how you're going to beat down this 3-foot ordinance. You voted for it, right? And it failed. And now it's back up again. It's like a dead horse. How many times are you guys going to do this? And I know it's not all of you across the board. I know who's doing this. Again, you're going to turn this beautiful town into an ugly town. And you better start with the town's property, like the gentleman before me said, because I'll be the first person that gets on a lawsuit, because this is absolutely ridiculous. A couple weeks ago, I was driving down Surfside Drive, and right where, I guess, the big house is on the stilt, they have the little brick area. It's not in a 3-foot zone. It's in the right. But guess what? A car crashed into it. Okay? What I'm saying is, what is the importance? Or do you think there's an danger to residents or tourists because these things are in a flower bed that has little flowers or a sign that says drive slow? It's absolutely ridiculous. And, one of the emails that was sent out said over 400 residents were in violation. What kind of violations are you talking about? You're just giving us tidbits. I'd like to know what these, and you pulled and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you pulled Public Works to do this survey. Well, that's awful funny, and I think the guys that are in Public Works, they do a great job. They have too much on their schedule. But my ditches have been cleaned twice since I've lived here in 6 years. Why don't we worry about what the storm's going to bring? Clean out our ditches, do things that affect the residents directly, not keep bringing something up over and over and over until somebody gets their way. It's ridiculous. Now, I personally had to call the fire chief because I didn't know who to call. I had a fire hydrant that was completely covered. I find out tonight that that's not the responsibility of Public Works or the fire department. But these are the type of things we should be worried about. Fire hydrants, That's right across the street. If my house caught on fire, they wouldn't know where it was. It was completely covered. These are the items you need to think about that personally affects a resident in an emergency situation. Not a flower bed or a tree that's so high that's been there for 30 years that people trim all the time. Now, and I hope this is really off. I guess I can't bring this up about the swimming pool because it's not on the agenda, but that's totally ridiculous. Is that my time? No. It's a, go do your job. I actually think some of these things are done to deflect. So somebody puts out an email about the swimming pool, and this is where I can say the swimming pool. You're deflecting to get people upset about a swimming pool so they forget about the 3-foot ordinance. There's a pattern here. I was an analyst for 37 years. There is a pattern here of people and how they're acting on this board. And I'm personally, like the gentleman before me, is going to remember who voted because this affects me personally. And I'm going to campaign, not only for myself, because I am throwing my hat in the ring, because I'm fed up. You people are not worried about the residents. You're worried about individual ideas of what a true town should be. We're a family beach. Leave us alone. We're not Myrtle Beach. The nickname is called Murder Beach, by the way. We are Surfside Family Beach. Leave us alone. And if you're going to pass this tonight, start with the town's problems first. Go down there and cut everything down Surfside Ocean Boulevard.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ann Westcott, 413 Cedar Drive North. I did notice that in here, it doesn't make any comment about cars parking in the right of way. The last time I checked, the car is more than 3 feet high. Some battles are never won. This town has looked better than it's done in the last 30 years. Why do you want to mess it up? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dolores Nicholson, but I understand that I can't talk about the water that was around my property last week because it's not on the agenda.
Until later.
You can at the public comments on the end.
Okay, thank you.
Harry Coleman, 10th Avenue North. When I first got here, I'm going to be talking about the second reading of Chapter 12. When I first got here, people would always say, you haven't been here long enough to know what's going on. Well, I think a lot of you on the dais here haven't been here long enough to know what's going on. You weren't here when Ocean Boulevard was full of cars. Dangerous, losing revenue to the parking lots because everyone could park for free on Ocean Boulevard instead of the parking lots. And aesthetically, it looked terrible. All those cars parking on the right of way. So now we're here, and the town goes and puts palm trees all along Ocean Boulevard. Well, according to your new ordinance coming in, because it's a town, you can do it. You don't even have to go to Surfside Drive, Ocean Boulevard to see that the town is the biggest perpetrator of violating the ordinance you're about to put in. When you leave tonight, go into your car, just look on the opposite side of the parking lot. First Avenue North, I believe it is, right in front of the firehouse. There's multiple white poles connected with white chain. Why is it there? It's there because they don't want you parking on the grass. go to 16th Avenue North. In the right-of-way, there's a benches and a deck to look over the pond. Who put it there? The town. Why are you being like the feds who say, do what I say, don't do what I do? This is a small town, folks. There's no reason to do this. You come up with this baloney excuse that it's for safety. It's going to bar the line of sight. Well, if it's in the line of sight and it's a dangerous situation, a dangerous obstacle, you have town work, public works, go tomorrow and rip it out. You don't need permission. You don't need permission. You can do that, but you don't. I can give you dozens and dozens of intersections that are obstructed with landscaping and trees. You're not doing anything about it. That's not what it's about. In my opinion, it's about somebody lost their lawsuit. Now everybody in town is going to suffer. Somebody wanted to straighten out all the ordinances and came upon this and said, we got one. We can do this. I was literally going to go and hand out flyers to each and every household who were in violation of your silly little ordinance. I didn't do that. You know why? Because I know what the people in this town do. They sit back and they don't really get involved in something until it directly affects them. And when you pass this and you start enforcing it, you're not going to be sitting up there anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if you were run out of town, because this is crazy. And if you think it's funny, it isn't. And if you think it's all right for people to park in your front lawn, I'll see you tomorrow at your house. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, the next thing is Constitution Week proclamation. And this is Proclamation 22-138, Constitution Week, which is September 17th through 23rd, 2022. Whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations that will commensurate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees issuing a yearly proclamation by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitutional Week. Now, therefore, I, Robert Hellyer, by authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Surfside Beach, South Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd, 2022 as Constitution Week. And further, ask the town of Surfside Beach citizens to reaffirm the ideas held by the authors and framers of the Constitution as written in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to all citizens through the guardian of our liberties, remembering the lost rights may never be regained. Be it so proclaimed this 13th day of September, 2022. Next thing on the agenda is Robert Bloomquist with the Public Information Officer events.
Mayor, council, public, good evening. All right, so I'm going to give you an update on events and public information for the past couple of months. This summer, the town offered weekly live music performances at Memorial Park. We have 2 more performances left, with Salty Dog on September 18th and Backfire on September 25th. We've had a great turnout at these events each week and hope to see you all in the last 2 weeks we have coming up. Once again, the town held the beach hula shows this summer, and they were a hit. Hundreds of people showed up each week. The final show was on August 9th, and we're already talking about next year. We also held this summer Crafters Cove with Adventure. They wrapped up their summer educational series on October 10th. Children enjoy making sandcastles, learning about sharks and shark teeth, and even help clean up the beach. Speaking of clean up the beach, KSVB's next beach sweep event will take place this Saturday, September 17th at 9 a.m. The beach sweep is being held in conjunction with the state's largest one-day volunteer water cleanup event, the South Carolina Sea Grant Consortium's 2022 Beach Sweep River Sweep. It takes place on the same day. Thousands of volunteers from around the state will help clear beaches, rivers, lakes, marshes, and swamps of aquatic debris. Please come out and join us. We're meeting at 3rd Avenue North at 9 a.m. Our next big event coming up is the 2022 Surfside Beach Family Festival, and that will take place on Saturday, October 1st from 10 to 4 on Surfside Drive. We'll have fun activities for kids, food, arts and craft vendors, and live music performances by Intrans Band and Carolina Soul. Another big event is on September 24th. That'll be the second annual Celebrate Surfside. That's again September 24th on 3rd Avenue North. On to public information. Last week we held a town employee appreciation event, and I know our employees appreciate knowing the town supports them in everything they do, so thank you for that. We continue to explore the assets and capabilities of our new website. Where possible, we've added some fillable forms for the Planning and Building and Zoning Office to make it more convenient for people and save them time and a trip to Town Hall. So if you are looking for a tree removal a permit or hold a garage sale, you can just fill out a form online and submit those applications, and they'll contact you rather than having to drive over to Town Hall. Makes it a little easier for you. Over the last several weeks, the town has started posting updates on progress of pier construction on our town's website and social media channels. And finally, I reached out and had a discussion with Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, their visit office, about leveraging their experience and purchasing power to help promote some of our major events outside markets, and plan to work with them to facilitate marketing and Surfside Beach to our feeder markets. That's your quarterly report. Any questions?
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor. Robert, we had the Employee Appreciation Day recently. It was not on any of our calendars, not that I could find. And I looked on 2 of them, so we need to do better on that. I mean, fortunately somebody told me about it, otherwise I'd have missed it. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I know you got a full plate.
No, I understand. Thank you.
Good job.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
One other thing, when Robert said 3rd Avenue North, he actually meant 3rd Avenue South.
Oh, it is now.
Yeah.
Okay. The 924.
Yes. Each week, 3rd Avenue North, 924 Celebrate Surfside Beach Festival is 3rd Avenue South.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know this because I'm getting dunked.
The next thing will be the peer committee recommendation. I'll give it to Bill to bring to us.
I thought the prayer committee was coming out. I don't have anything. Yeah.
Is there anybody from the peer committee here tonight?
I could talk about what we talked about.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Oh, I'll have to get up. Mike's right here. Good evening, everybody. We actually met with the peer committee yesterday, and I got to be honest, there's a lot of stuff going on. One of the issues that they're talking about is the actual gate that's on the pier. We need to figure out where we're going to put it, but the hold up on that is whether or not we're going to charge folks to come on the pier. And so that was one of the things that probably the main thing that they wanted to talk about. In addition to that, we will be setting up a meeting with OCRM in the next couple of weeks and talking about what we can and cannot do on the pier based on their regulations. Number 3, we're moving forward with the vendors. We have 3 contracts. One that's in the process of being finalized right now. It got sent to our commercial attorney this morning. The other two, we're still meeting and negotiating and making sure everything's the way it's supposed to be before we send that off. And that's basically what they had. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tabitha's here
You wanna
too.
join me for a second, just in case? Okay, so for last night's peer committee meeting, thank you, by the way, for summarizing all the crazy stuff that we had to go through. So thank you for that. So with that being said, the only thing that we were going to make a recommendation on were the peer rules, like the rules for the pier. That was the only recommendation that we were going to have for you guys tonight for discussion.
It's actually the recommendation that the placement of the gate.
The gate.
The rules we just voted on last night.
Right. Okay. So the gate is where we like placed the gate versus where the original placement of the gate was. And then we voted on the rules last night, to your point. We voted on the rules last night. So that's pretty much where we were. And then we chose to move that gate behind building D.
The
Okay.
last part of the building.
Correct. Okay.
It's currently situated in the building D in between the two doors, because I think originally when the design was made, we were planning to
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah,
as-
Use the mic.
Talking to the mic, please.
There you go. Sorry.
So in the original design, they planned to probably utilize that as a fish and tackle bait store on the end. And usually in our previous up here, that was who handled the emissions. So I believe that's where the design flaw was. So our recommendation from the peer committee is to relocate that gate about 6 to 8 foot back and put it at the end of the building instead of in between the doors.
For that reason.
Okay,
So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, but if I'm understanding correctly, that's the security gate to close the pier off after closing hours. So it's closed overnight, like from 11:30 PM to 5:30 AM. It's not to preclude anyone from accessing the pier to walk on or visit the kiosks or the businesses, correct?
It's not to impede upon the businesses on there. Not the businesses. Yes, correct. Yes, the safety reason of the gate, for sure.
Well, I think when it was originally designed, it was designed so that people could go into Building D and pay the admission on the pier and do that. But I think we've agreed and we talked about it that doing the admission on the pier is too early right now.
Correct.
Because all the evaluations haven't been done on our income on the pier to see whether we need admission or do whatever. So, I think moving the gate from the current location to the end is still prudent on what we're going to do, because even if we do charge admission to the pier, the admission will not be done by Building D. It will be done someplace else on the top of the pier.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
Okay.
Anything else for us?
So your recommendation is just to move the gate on there.
Correct. 6 to 8 foot behind building D. Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, one more question. When are we going to have this evaluation so we can put to bed the walk-on fee? Because the whole discussion 2 years ago was that the additional third business and the introduction of the kiosks on the pier would be the offsetting revenue so that we did not have to have a walk-on fee. That is a subject of angst for a lot of people. So who's doing this evaluation and when are we going to be able to put that to bed one way or another?
As far as the peer committee is concerned, we don't want to have that discussion whatsoever until we know what the businesses and the actual the revenue pieces of it. So we
but
haven't.
I think that's an evaluation more staff should be
Right.
doing than the peer committee.
Okay.
I mean, if we're really worried about, the nominal revenue we actually collected on walk-on fees over the years, and to my understanding, it was less than $100,000 a year. I think business licenses for the third business and all the additional kiosks that are there, and the lease payments for that additional space and the kiosk being on the pier will more than offset whatever that nominal fee was that we collected from grandma and grandpa and the 5 grandkids walking on the pier. So when can we expect to get some recommendation to move forward with this? I mean, we already have an idea what the lease fees and, we already have, some idea of what the business license additional revenue is. And I know that goes into a different fund and all that stuff, but still, it's money to the town that I don't think we have to nickel and dime our visitors and the people that don't reside within the incorporated town to walk on the pier.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
this will be evaluated once they have all the details and all the final says of what this is going to be. Is that not correct? Instead of doing it right this minute?
Yeah, so it is in our workflow, and we have been trying to get that as soon as possible. But basically, we don't have the lease assigned, so we don't actually know what that is. We don't know the financials of the pier, and we want to kind of gather that information to be able to provide y'all the best pros and cons to admission fee or no admission fee. So we don't want to make that decision too early, and unfortunately, we're just not in a place that we can recommend that to you guys. So. But it is probably up very soon. As soon as we get the information, I mean, we've really wanted that recommendation already, but we're waiting on the lease to be ended, and then that way we can make that recommendation to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr. Adair, I've got a question for you. If you were here at the peer committee meeting two meetings ago when we talked about this gate.
Yes.
Okay, and you were the one that made the recommendation that, we probably need to do the date. Or move the gate. Do you have anything to say on this?
No, I think if building C, they call it building D because it's the fourth business, but it's building C on the plans. Building C is not going to be involved in the access control for the pier. It should be moved back to beyond that point. Whether it's used strictly just to open in the morning and close at night for security, or if at some point a two-gate system is put into place if people are being charged, that's a decision can be made later. But I think moving it back, we're at that critical phase with the contractor and the architect where we have to, because they have to put electricity in for future power, we have to tell them where it's going to go.
And does that location also block the access from the ADA ramp that comes up to that?
No.
No.
There'll
Okay,
have
so
to
you'd
be
have to have another
there'll have to be a separate
gate
gate at
at
the top
the-
of that ramp or at the bottom of the ramp, yes.
And does that require a vote of council in order to make that change order decision to move the gate?
Yeah, I did recommend that the committee bring it to council because it is a change to the drawings. And this way it's documented that it was brought to council. Because, the whole admission thing is still up in the air.
Okay. Does anybody have a motion on?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move the gate back on the pier to the recommendation of the pier committee to go beyond building C
Technically.
at this time.
Second.
second that.
Any discussion before we vote? Mr. Stamey?
Yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Yes.
Kinkin?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
And myself.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for the work that you guys are doing on the pier.
Yes.
Okay, and the next thing on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 22-0946, chapter 12, streets, sidewalks, beaches, and other public places.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve second reading of ordinance number 22-0946 of modifications to chapter 12.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and second on that. Do we want to start with discussion? Mr. Stamey, do you have any?
I know we're going to have to vote on this as Cindy is put it up forth, but I'd like to see amendment to that motion, but at this time, no.
Did you put it up?
Can I make an amendment to what has been motioned now?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we take out of chapter 12, 21, the section D, and pass the rest of the motions of A, B, and C.
I'll second that.
Okay, do you have any further discussion on it? Mr. Stamey?
The reason I'm wanting to do this is because I don't think this is really something that we need to pass right this minute. We need to work on this some more, maybe get a citizens group involved in this, see how the town wants to proceed with this instead of just jumping into it and passing this. We can go ahead and get chapter 12 done. I'll accept this 21, and that's the reason I'd like to make the motion for that.
Okay. Mr. Holder, do you have any comments? No. Ms. Keating?
No.
Okay.
I'd like to say that I somewhat agree with Mr. Stamey. I think we do need to flesh it out better, and this will still have the 3-foot clear zone. So if you have something out to the road, something should be done about it. I do think the tree part of it needs to be looked at. Somehow they need to be approved if they're mature trees. We're a tree-friendly town. We don't want to make it sound like we're going to tear them out. And the way it reads right now, I believe that's what kind of looks like we would maybe be doing. So without D, we could pass it and work on it more. It's kicking it down the road a little farther, but at least we're gaining a little bit. We need to have something though in force, and I don't know. I wished it would have gotten fleshed out before it got to this point.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The mature trees that are currently existing in the right-of-way are considered town property and street trees under Article A. So there is nothing in D that indicates the town would remove any of the existing mature trees throughout the town.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin?
Unless I'm reading this wrong, in no instance shall an encroachment permit be granted for permanent structures such as fences, fixtures, and trees. That tells me that you can't have a tree beyond the 3 foot. Do we wonder why nobody in town has spoken in favor of this? Here it is, Constitution Week, and we're trying to take people's rights away from them. This is an attempt to remove property owners' rights for no explainable reason other than equal enforcement that has not been a problem for 40 plus years. A property owner has the right to protect their property. This section is an egregious attempt to remove those rights. And so I agree with Mr. Stamey to delete that section D, pass the rest of it, and then come back at some point in the future. If the town needs something to enforce, let them enforce the line of sight, which is a safety issue. There are plenty of intersections where you have to stop on the white line. You can't see. So you have to move forward till you can see. Those are the things that should be addressed. And I'm going to challenge the police department, Public Works to work together on that to identify these intersections. Because you either got to move the white line or you got to move the obstruction. Because where your stop sign is, you stop, you can't see, and you have to move forward. And that is a safety issue. The rest of D is not a safety issue, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm very much in favor of deleting section D and passing the rest of the ordinance.
Mr. Drake?
I'm very much in favor of the property rights, as Mr. Kinkin has said, as long as it's your property. If the town's right-of-ways or any right-of-way in the state of South Carolina or anywhere in the United States, it is the right-of-way. And the way our ordinance is really written right now is correct. Shouldn't be nothing in the right-of-way. But 200, 300, 400, whatever the number is, if people decide they want to plant a bush, they want to put a tree, they want to put something else in the way, it shouldn't be there. But if the town puts it there for whatever reason, it's their property. It's not yours. If it doesn't belong to you, you shouldn't be planting and doing stuff on it anyway. I know it looks good, looks beautiful, but point of order. The part of the right of way isn't made for that. It's made for the grass to grow out to the far edge, not to put shrubbery and everything else. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, before I comment on it, I'd like to ask John Adair to step up, if he would. And, you've heard our public comments tonight and with what people have said in reference to trees on Surfside Drive and trees in the right of way. Can you give us the town's position on trees that are there and in the right of ways?
Well, I'll speak about the town trees and the town instructions as it's spelled out in an earlier section. Every town, every municipality, county has things in the right of way: signage, sidewalks, drainage facilities, legal public parking, street furniture, public trash cans, you name it, including street trees. You can look at any of our neighboring cities from Wilmington to Charleston, and there's public landscaping in the rights of way, and that's legal. The whole purpose of and in surveying the town over the last month or so, my crews and I have found that most trees that have been planted in the right of way are palm trees, and they're not canopy trees of any kind. They're decorative ornamental trees. But I'll say what we said back in March when we first we were asked to go over Chapter 12 as part of a series of chapters and the ordinances that needed to be brought up to current standards. And in Chapter 12, there's 90 some odd sections. There's beaches, and there's special events in there, and then there's sidewalk cafes. This is one section of a whole ordinance that we were tasked to go over. So knowing that the ordinance that we had was unenforceable, we would just want something to be quantified, that if we get a complaint that, hey, this person is doing A, or if you see somebody installing B, that we could say, hey, this is not allowed, and have something to point to. We don't take a position on having it there or not. If it's not there, there's nothing to enforce. This is not something that town staff has a personal stake in, especially myself, which has been thrown around here. If it's not enumerated as what's allowed, we did have a court case some years ago, probably 2016, I believe it went to court, of a fence in the right of way. After a couple of letters went ignored to remove a fence that was being installed in the right of way. And we had a jury trial, and the defendant lost the jury trial. But upon appeal to the appellate court ruled that it should be remanded back to town for it to be retried because the judge didn't allow testimony about people in similarly situated conditions, which basically means you're back to square one. And what it means is that our ordinance as it was, unless we apply it across the board to the whole town and notify everybody, this is how it has to be, you really can't enforce it. So that's where we've been standing still for the last 6 years. And if that council desires to stay in that position, that's fine with staff. But if we're going to have something, I get calls all the time. Hey, my neighbor put this little fence in the right of way. Somebody down the block put these boulders in the right of way. If it's desired by council for it not to be enforced, then that's fine with staff. But if it's going to be enforced, we have to have direction and something spelled out 3 foot with nothing over a certain height beyond that. Okay, we have something on paper that we can look at. If it's ambiguous or vague, then we can't enforce it. Then you'll just be replacing one unenforceable ordinance with another one. So this is however council wants to handle this is fine with staff. But I will say that most of what we saw in the right of ways was shrubs, sago palms, a couple of palm trees, regular palm trees that were installed. Not so much of hardscape or anything like that.
Now, are you talking about the 3 foot? Or are you talking about the 6 foot or whatever?
No,
or the 10 foot?
No, 10 foot. We were told that but the first reading was passed was 3 foot. So
Correct.
We were told to go look at 3 foot violations, anything over 18 inches to 24 inches beyond that, for the rest of the right of way. Approximately how many? And it's still a couple of hundred. But again, it could stay there, or the ordinance could make it something that has to be removed.
Well, our ordinance says that if it's after the 3 foot zone, between the 3 foot and the 10 foot, that people could apply for an encroachment permit. What kind of an encroachment permit could they apply for and get?
Well, if this ordinance was passed the way it's been written, I believe the 18 inches has been increased to 36 inches, which is compatible with our corner line of sight, sight triangle, which is in the zoning ordinance. Anything, if you back up 20 feet on every corner, there's called a sight triangle, nothing can be over 3 feet. So to make it consistent with that, 18 became 36 beyond the 3-foot clear zone. Now, every right-of-way is different. There are some right-of-ways that are only 10 feet from the road before the private property starts. Some are 15, some are 20 or 25. But council felt that 3 foot was a fair number for, so if someone could step off the road without getting hit by a car, that's fine with staff as well.
But the way that it's written right now, if it's 34 inches, right, I still need to get an encroachment permit? Or I don't?
Anything above grade that's legal according to the ordinance would need an encroachment permit, which if it met the ordinance, we would issue it.
Okay. And how would you go about enforcing this through the town?
Well, should it pass, as our attorney has told us, we would have to notify every resident of town with a letter as to what was passed. And a certain amount of time, 60, 90 days would be allotted, not this attorney, to get into compliance. And then we would go out and write letters, whoever is left. You know, this way, if we did ever have another court case, we would have legal standing, something to stand on, saying that we are enforcing it equally across the board.
And how much interaction have you had with the town as far as the residents on people that are violating the right-of-way stuff that it's become a problem for you?
It's not a problem for me, except the line of sight things on the corners with stop signs, which we regularly trim back. We've lately been having code enforcement write letters to those property owners to please either cut your own bushes back or remove them because they're encroaching on the line of sight. But most of the complaints that we get are from neighbors to neighbors. You know, the boulders and things like that, little rope fences and whatnot. You know, you go down most blocks and there's, say 20 houses, there might be 19 of them that have nothing but grass, and then there's the one that has an obstruction. And that's pretty much been consistent throughout town. So, it's not a problem or not a problem. It's, our job is we take an oath to enforce what's on the books. And if we get a complaint, we need to have something to point to and say, hey, that's allowed or that's not allowed.
Mr. Mayor, I've
Yeah.
got another question.
Go ahead.
Of all the times that this has been on the books, they keep referring back to the town would be responsible. If somebody hits this property, the town would be responsible because it's in the town right away. For all the time that this has been on the books, is the way it is right now, has the town ever had to pay any money to anybody for running over anything in the town's right away?
Running over? No.
Or have any kind of lawsuit against us, the town?
The only lawsuits we've had have been like trips and things like that on the corners and the sidewalk or in the street. They're always going to sue.
So the reason we're trying to do is to just to get something written that you can go out there and clear that right of way if we need to do something in it, is basically what Chapter 12D is saying. But yet, we've never had a problem with it before now. And now we've had a problem with it, and our citizens keep jumping up and saying, we don't want this, we don't want that. Why are we so involved in trying to get something enforced that we don't have a law breaking now? Now, if it was something that everybody was getting sued over this problem, the town was getting sued over this problem, maybe I could see that. I could see that we had to have that clear zone.
Yeah.
But our town, the highest speed limit in town is what, 35? That'd be the highest, 30. We ain't like we're out on the interstate traveling 60 and 70 miles an hour, and we need a lot of runoff room. If anybody's going that fast in town, Chief Hoffman needs to lock them up. That's what I'm getting at. Why are we so involved in trying to get this right away cleared out? It puzzles me.
Your point's well taken, council member. But
Yes.
again, we were tasked to go over the entirety of Chapter 12, and this is one section in Chapter 12 that needs to be clarified, modified to be acceptable to everybody, or removed, essentially.
Mr. Mayor. John, can you enforce A, B, and C without D?
Well, with no references to encroachment permits, if you took out D by altogether, then people could basically, I wouldn't need to permit anything beyond 3 feet. They could put up whatever they wanted, no matter how high it was, and there's nothing we could say about it.
Okay, but you can enforce the 3-foot clear zone, you can enforce the rest of it.
Yeah, the only thing in there left is the 3-foot clear zone, yes.
Okay. And that way people that have shrubs beyond the 3 foot or fence, they, up until the time you need that property to put a sidewalk in or a ditch or whatever you got to use it for, it's not causing a problem. It's just something you can't enforce it until it's time to use the property.
We're happy to enforce anything council decides to pass. If that's how you'd like it, we'd be happy to leave. Yeah. We don't have a stake in
Are you going to work for the UN soon?
No, it's not something.
Diplomatic.
Back when that court case took place, by the way, we didn't have a code enforcement officer. So I was personally involved in that case because I saw the fence being installed in question. Today, we would send the code enforcement officer over to look at a complaint, and he would pick up the ordinance and see what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. So whatever is the desire of council, how they want the town to ultimately look, because taking out D is going to, there's always a result of, action and reaction. There's always going to be something that's done or not done as a result of an ordinance that's passed. So
what Councilman Stamey was saying, let's take D out, pass the rest of it, because you need it passed.
Mm-hmm.
Look at D, and at some later date, maybe we come up with a consensus on what to do beyond the 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But
you could pass it without 1221, just strike 1221 from it and add the whole thing back later the way you want it. To me, that's a more holistic approach than just taking out D. You could strike 1221 in its entirety, pass it without it, so the special event things take place that need to take place, and then that could be added in at a later date, and we could just.
Well, some of us think the 3 foot's important.
Okay, well then, what you're proposing is fine.
Okay.
Go ahead, Laverne.
I have a question for our lawyer. I'm sure you have read this. In section D, would that, let's say I have a mature, I don't even know what the hell it is anymore. Anyway, I have a tree that's in the right of way. And I don't care if it gets magnolia tree. I don't care if it gets tore down because the leaves are a pain. But with that being said, would this ordinance make that be tore down or not? It would. So, okay, I'm.
Unless it's grandfathered in.
Well, yeah.
See, I would consider any mature tree like that to be a street tree, which is protected in A.
Okay.
As a public tree.
And that's where the definitions would be important.
If you have a 50-year,
but then
if you have a 50-year-old cedar tree in the right of way, that's more of a public tree.
But then we get back to maybe kind of selective enforcement. What's a mature tree? That's my take on it.
Would you take out a magnolia tree and if it was in your right of way?
Well, a magnolia tree is protected in the tree ordinance, so probably not.
Well, I'm not concerned about my tree.
But if the tree
we have trees in the right of way throughout town, but if they're not dying or diseased or hazardous, we leave them alone.
But let's say it was a 10-year oak. It's kind of a seedling almost yet.
Mm.
But it's a live oak. Since it's a protected tree, that wouldn't be taken
Yeah,
out,
no.
or would it?
I would consider it a street tree.
Okay. But that's kind of my issue. It's still kind of it needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be a little more clear cut as to what fits to have an encroachment and what does not, because it's still kind of selective in my opinion, but I don't know. I guess at this point, we need something that can be enforced, so I guess, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
however,
you.
whatever
I
the
know.
desire of council is
I
fine
know.
with staff.
Well, I thank you for answering the questions for me. Does anybody else have any questions of John? before we
Thanks,
let him-
John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
You know, my whole stance on this is that everybody gets a chance to do, but the problem that I have is that we have something that's unenforceable. It's been on the books since the 60s, and you know, it's not enforceable and it's not being enforced. And you know, now we've got more people moving into town. We have more traffic in town. We have more cars in town, and the right of way is important to us more so than it was before. And it's going to be more important to us as we move along. So, you know, I've gotten, and everybody says that there's nobody for this, you know, but I've gotten plenty of emails on people that are for it. And I just, you know, my job as the mayor is to vote for things that affect all the residents and not a select few. So, you know, that's where our dilemma is. So we need to vote on the amendment first.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Mr. Stamey, do you want to repeat your amendment?
My amendment was to take out D of the chapter 12 and work on it at a further date and pass the rest of the chapter 12.
That's 12-21, section D.
Right. And do I have a second on that? I think I
Yes.
already had one. Okay. So on that, Mr. Stamey, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Holder?
Yes.
Ms. Keating?
No.
Mr. Krecklaw?
As long as the street trees are going to stay, no.
Okay. Mr. Kinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
No.
And I'm going to vote no on it also. So it did pass and it did get turned down. Now we'll go into the original motion. And Ms. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to delete section, chapter 12, section 1221 in its entirety. Do we have a chance to come up with a solution that all of us like?
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion before we vote on it?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we already have a problem throughout town. We've heard it several times tonight about line of sight. And these are things that are already existing in the right of way that continue to need to be trimmed back. We remove this clause, then there's no rules for anyone that they can do whatever they want on town property right out to the edge of the road. And whether it's a line of sight issue, a safety hazard for the police department, for pedestrians, no place to pull off the road to change a flat tire, you know, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. So I think that's an unreasonable move to take.
Okay.
There's nothing in this ordinance that has to do with line of sight. Line of sight is separate. It's a safety issue. This does not prevent people from the proper authorities taking care of line of sight. This only has to do with individual property rights.
Any other comments?
Yes, at that, we're back to what was stated earlier. We're infringing on these people's rights again, and didn't we just pass something a while ago that we give people the rights? We're infringing on them rights again. It's okay for the town to do this stuff, but it isn't okay for the taxpayer to do it.
It's not their.
Okay. Mr. Stamey, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
No.
Krecklaw?
No.
Kinkin?
Yes.
Drake?
No.
And I'm going to vote no for it also. So we're back to the original motion. And Ms. Keating, do you want to state the motion again?
Yeah, the motion is to accept modification of chapter 12 as is in ordinance 22-0946. That includes stipulating the rules for third-party sponsored events being held on town property, encroachment permits for sidewalk cafes on town property, as well as other third parties planting obstructions in the right-of-ways. This was, originally proposed as a 3-foot clear zone, was a good compromise that still allowed people to discourage parking in front of their homes, should they so choose. It still allowed plantings for, soft, low-level plantings. It doesn't impede line of sight. It still allows the beautification. It still allows all the mature trees that are protected under the tree ordinance. And it was seen as a reasonable ordinance to enforce throughout the town, as well as minimize the impact on all the various existing infringements or violations that have already been out there. And it gives the latitude to the town to be able to respond to complaints that they continue to receive. You don't want to have to go out to someone and say, yeah, well, sorry, but we currently have an unenforceable ordinance on the books. I can't help you. So this was seen as a reasonable compromise to all of the various purposes for the rights of ways.
Second. That's great. All right, on the motion, Mr. Stamey?
No.
Holder?
No.
Keating?
Yes.
Cracklaw?
Yes.
Kinkin?
No.
Drake?
Yes.
And I'm going to vote yes on it also. So that did pass. Moving right along, we now go to, let me just a second. We go to decision paper. Beg your pardon? We go to a decision paper from the Olive Shack requesting additional market days during the holidays by Mr. Bloomquist.
Good evening again. So a couple meetings ago, we brought this to you all, and we're sent back with some questions on representing this. After talking with Olive Shack, they've adjusted a couple of their dates. You'll notice decision paper actually says 3 days, but it's only 2. They're asking for additional days on Thursday, December 15th, and Friday, December 16th. Again, this is to add just those 2 days to their current agreement.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the recommendation from Mr. Blomquist to add the 2 additional days to my Olive Shack agreement for the open air market with meaning.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right. Any comments?
Mr. Mayor, this was originally done as a for charity.
Yes.
All right. Do you have any idea how much money over this course of this year they've raised for charity?
They haven't reported that yet. I believe they're supposed to report it at the end.
At the end?
Yes, sir.
So you don't know if it's $1, $1,000, or you don't have any clue?
Currently, I do not know.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Do we know if the Waccamaw Cooperative has wanted any of these dates?
They don't. So they do currently have through December 20th.
Okay.
So they'll have a date on Tuesday, December 13th.
Thank you.
Originally, Olive Shack had asked for 3 days, but they found out from their vendors that people were just not interested in the Wednesday.
I have a question. It's known that they're there every Thursday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one Saturday a month.
Yes, sir.
And I see that they post this in their Facebook thing that says that we're there every Thursday plus one Saturday a month, but it never tells anybody what the one Saturday is. So, I mean, they should be setting that if they're going to be one Saturday a month, and when it comes to October, they should tell us what Saturday, or post what Saturday it's going to be, or you post what Saturday it's going to be, just so that the residents know what Saturday they can go in.
Sure. I can work with them to communicate that.
Okay. I appreciate that. Any other comments from council before we vote on this? All right, Mr. Stamey?
No.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Cracklaw?
Yes.
Kinkin?
No.
Drake,
Yes.
and I'm yes. So they will have those 2 extra dates in December.
Yes.
And nobody, not in conflict with anybody.
No, sir.
It's, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the parking committee recommendation. And that's with Mr. Kinkin.
You want me to jump in, sir?
Sure.
Okay, the purpose is to make parking spaces for golf carts diagonal along the 40-foot east, starting 44th east of Ocean Boulevard to the intersection of Seaside Drive and First Avenue South. Then leave the rest of the spaces parallel to the road, increasing the number of spaces without reducing safety. In addition, the parking committee are requesting that motorcycles also be allowed to park in that area. Some of the facts: the west side of Ocean Boulevard has a sidewalk installed, which eliminated some of the parking in the E district. Currently, we have parallel parking for golf carts on First Avenue between Ocean Boulevard eastward and to the ocean. Parking spaces would be lined and have tire stops. This parking area would be a pay-to-park location. And so the recommendation, based on the information provided, would be recommend the parking spaces on First Avenue South to Seaside Drive be placed diagonally starting 40 feet east of Ocean Boulevard. Then the rest of these spaces remain parallel to the road. Request that the town allow both motorcycles and golf carts to park there. Request that this area remain a pay-to-park location, and that we line the parking spaces and install the tire stops. This gives us a couple of extra spaces. I don't remember the number. I'm sure Councilman King can tell me.
It's 80 feet, so if you use 9 feet for a golf cart, that's versus parallel, it adds about 12 parking spots to the in that 80 foot. It also has the opportunity. I go down there quite a bit to see what's going on at the pier. And I park there and I walk over, and this summer I observed 5 different occasions where 3 cars and 2 golf carts just went out the wrong way. Instead of turning left like they're supposed to, they just continued on down to Ocean Boulevard. I believe if you have parallel parking there, that narrows the space down to 14 feet, which is enough for the fire truck. They brought the fire truck in and it was fine. We've had police chief, fire chief, John Adair, Bill, and the committee look at this multiple times, and there is plenty of room to do it. It's opportunity to gain a few more parking spaces, and right now the season's pretty much over, so you wouldn't even have to do anything until over the winter and have it ready for first of the season next March. So I'm very much in favor of it. The committee has worked on this and asked the opinion of everybody, safety people involved in town, and it's a reasonable compromise. It's different because originally we were going to do 120 feet diagonal, and so we backed that off. We stopped there at intersection with what is that? Seaside Drive South. I think it's a good compromise. For one, I think it'll stop the cars from going out the wrong way.
Do I have a motion on that?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept this decision paper to add First Avenue South golf cart parking as described. And that's 40 feet east of the Ocean Boulevard, not 40 inches.
I second.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that, if we're going to go down this path, that maybe we do it in phases or a trial period. I mean, I likewise go down there and I have seen so many near misses with huge Suburbans and delivery trucks and the beer trucks that have to go back to Scotty's, with various pedestrians, with families, with wagons, with kids, with dogs, and so forth. And I just can't imagine the squeeze that will happen when they now have to walk around diagonally parked golf carts. So I just fear that's an accident waiting to happen. So you may want to put it on a trial period and see how it works out first before implementing it permanently.
Mr. Adair, if we change those from parallel parking to diagonal parking and then decide at a later date that it's not working and we need to go back, is there an issue on that? I mean, is there an extreme cost of doing it, or is it just a matter of
the
painting
first
over
year
the
I
lines?
wouldn't do it in thermoplastic paint. I would do it in regular traffic paint. But we have ascertained that the road has sufficient width for a legal lane. If you allow diagonal parking, there's a legal lane, 12 foot to go by it. And then beyond Seaside Drive, the committee has agreed to understand that the parallel beyond that, because Scotty's has deliveries and people coming and going out of that parking area. But that first section, there is a sufficient lane for one lane of traffic.
So you don't think it would be problematic that the diagonal would be?
I don't really know. I was asked to the feasibility. Is there a legal safe lane that can be established? If that's allowed, and yes, there is.
Okay.
But that's a very heavy pedestrian area.
Well, did you want to make a motion for that?
Well, in my opinion, I wouldn't vote to do this at all, but
Okay.
if you insist on doing it, I would recommend that you modify the motion to include a trial period first to ensure that it's actually feasible without.
Well, we have a motion in front of us now to do it, so if you
All right,
want
I
to.
make a motion to modify the motion to include that it will be performed on a trial basis only initially,
A 1 year one?
1 year.
Any comments?
You have a second?
I didn't hear the second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Michael.
Okay, so we're now voting on the motion. Okay, the
Mr. Mayor.
second motion,
Amendment.
the amendment.
We always have pedestrian problems at every one of our parking places. Because every one of them is an access to the beach. You have it on, there's not a single city-owned parking lot that you don't have pedestrian issues. This one's no worse than any of the others. So, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, well, we're voting on the amendment right now. Mr. Stamey,
No.
Holder,
No.
Keating,
Yes.
Crecklaw,
No.
Kinkin,
No.
Drake,
No.
and I'm going to vote no on it also. So now we're going to go back to the original motion. And the original motion is for do you want to repeat it for us?
Recommend parking spaces on First Avenue south to Seaside Drive be diagonal, starting 40 feet east of Ocean Boulevard. Then the remaining spaces will remain parallel to the road. Request that the town allow both motorcycles and golf carts to park in these spaces, and that this area remain a pay-to-park location, line the parking spaces, and install tire stops.
Okay, Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
No.
Crecklaw,
No.
Yes.
Yes.
and I'm going to vote yes too, so that did pass. Next thing on the agenda is parking or stormwater committee appointment. Let me find those.
Mr. Mayor, how many open positions on the Stormwater Committee do we have?
Just one. I took that from my wife, who just said that, who just put her finger up saying one.
Thank you, Beth.
I don't know, I can't pronounce.
All
I'm
right.
going to make a motion that Ken, I'm not sure the last name.
Pedraza?
I think it's Pedraza.
Pedraza, to the to the Stormwater Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any questions or discussion on that before we vote?
Mr. Mayor, don't you have two? Only one opening. Two people.
All right, Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Yes.
Kinkin,
Yes.
Drake.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to vote yes.
I'm just
too,
look,
so.
I'm just looking at,
PhD in organic chemistry.
That's what's on me.
Okay, the next thing is an appointment to the Business Committee.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Rick Rodriguez to the Business Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on it? Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Cracklaw,
Yes.
Kinkin,
Yes.
Drake,
yes.
and I'm yes too. So those two appointments have been made. The next thing is public comments, and these are public comments that have to do with town services or business conducted. Dolores?
I feel your pain.
We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
How you doing this
Good
evening?
everybody. I'm here again. I was here in 2018. My name is Dolores Nicholson. I live at 716 Pine Drive, Surfside Beach, South Carolina. I love Surfside. But I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my property if they keep building and don't update the drainage. This book is full of the water I had in 2018, and now the weekend, the 2 days that it rained, my land started filling up again. And I got pictures here to show it. Across the street, in front of my house, next door, the water just piled up in big pools, and it's scaring me. And I come to see what y'all can do about it. I was told that I would have to pay for drainage, but I can't afford to have somebody come in and do that kind of work. But I'm afraid, and my neighbor next door, Betty and Roger Boer, we're afraid that we're going to be overtaken with the water when it rains more than 2 or 3 days. And I'm wondering what you can do about it. And Betty has the pipe where my water is supposed to go in. But they haven't been, I don't think they've been there in 4 years to clean it out. And then they also said at the corner of Pine and Popular, our water's supposed to go in that ditch. Well, when I passed it the same day it was raining, that ditch was full. So everybody, they're building, but the drainage is not being updated. That's all I can see. So I just come to let you know that I've gotten a lot of water again. It didn't go under my house this time, I guess because it didn't rain long enough. But before it went under my crawl space. After 24 years being here, it was under my crawl space. But this time, I guess it didn't rain enough. And I thank the Lord for that. So I just wanted you to know
Thank you.
what I'm going through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Bill, you and I have been over to Dolores's house and looked at the bottom and done whatever. So I'm sure that you guys can look into that or see what you can do.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Any other public comments?
I'm Larry McKean, 6th Avenue South. Just wanted to point out some inconsistencies I heard today. We've heard about a report that there are less than 400 properties in town that have right-of-way difficulties. Yeah, we just heard from our public works director, that when he did that survey, he only looked at the first 3 feet. Is that correct? Well, I can't ask a question. Anyways, I suspect you'll find it's more like 1,600 properties, maybe even 2,000 properties. I don't know how many we have in town. The other thing, just as an aside, I like this clear zone because my mailbox is in the clear zone and it's been wiped out 4 times this year already. So people are using it for traffic, that's for sure. Thank you.
Sean Fallon, 411 Cedar Drive North. My issue with the 3 foot, now that you passed it, and I will remember who voted yes and no, and I'm going to make sure I get out on Facebook tonight to inform everybody how things were voted upon. It's not a threat, but I just want to educate because election is coming up. But my concern is, if it's not our property, then how come the town's not cleaning it? Nobody cleans my ditch. Nobody does. I'm a 61-year-old woman that gets down. My neighbors tease me because they see my shoulders. That's how deep the ditch is. And I'm down there trying to clean it. I can't keep doing that. So if you're going to say I can't plan anything, I can't do anything, then I shouldn't have to clean it. So what do you say about that? Does anybody have an answer to that? I've been here 6 years. Twice my ditch has been cleaned out. And now that they cleaned it out, sitting water every time it rains, whether it's a light rain, heavy rain, it sits there for days. So the way they dug it out didn't work. And it's still not clear. There's a blockage there. And so take responsibility. If you're going to be a council, take responsibility for people's safety, not just somebody's little bush that's in the way.
Are there any other public comments? All right, I guess it's now time for council discussion. So go ahead, Mr. Stamey.
Let me start out with saying thanks for everybody coming out and everybody listening in. As a council person, I do feel some of you's pain about this right away. I have a bush at my mailbox. It probably needs to come out now. It's on the books now, so we're going to have to enforce it. There are going to be a lot of people mad. I hope the town has enough money to fight the lawsuits. It's probably going to come because of this. I do respect every one of you for coming out and voicing your opinion. I do try to listen, and I do try to help out as much as I can. On saying that, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Mr. Holder.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I was spirited comments by everybody. I understand that Chapter 12 is something that gets me upset too. So I do want to remind people that this weekend is the hazardous waste drop off they can do at Public Works. And that's great to take a TV or resin bulbs or whatever the item is. You can do that this weekend. So, and also, I'm looking forward to October 1st. That's one that I always look forward to, that fall event, and that will be coming up soon. So, thank you.
Ms. Keating.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming out and for listening in. You know, we can't all agree on everything all the time, but we have to do what's right in our hearts and to provide the town with its own individual laws that can actually be enforced and implemented. And sometimes that takes compromise. Sometimes you have to be very specific and read the language that, you know, it exempts out, like we were saying, the street trees and the mature trees that are protected by the tree ordinance. It exempts out your bush around your mailbox, because the encroachment permit for a mailbox also includes the 3 by 3 foot area around your mailbox. So, you know, we have a lot of people that want to dream up stories and resort to Facebook to stir the pot and get people upset. I mean, I got many phone calls and many emails this past couple weeks about false information that's been out there. And I think what you'll find is, once that this ordinance is implemented and really evaluated what's impacted, you're going to find very minimal things that need to be changed. So I just encourage everybody to seek the truth and not some of the slanderous rumors that are out there. So with that, I want to thank everybody for showing an interest in the town. Especially want to thank the volunteers that we were able to appoint. And special thanks to the committee of KSBB and Robert Bloomquist for continuing to make our town special with the events and the activities. So I thank you all very much, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
Mr. Crickwell.
Oh, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and voicing their opinion and taking an interest in what goes on. I'd like to thank everybody that called in and listening. I'd like to thank our town employees for all their work and all that. I'd also like to say that I would like to see in our next meeting discussing our agreement with the Athletic Booster Club for Huckabee Field. It automatically renews every year, which is in January. And I think we should look at it before it automatically renews and have a discussion at least about what goes on with that. So with that being said, good night and see you in a couple of weeks.
Mr. Kinky.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in, showing up, especially for the people that got up and spoke. I feel like that this is not a good day for Surfside. I think we're going to end up with costs that we don't anticipate. I'm not sure that we have money to survey all the lots that need to be surveyed to make sure that nothing outside of the zone is removed, but that'll be seen down the road. I want to thank the Public Works, our town employees, our safety groups, both fire and police, for a wonderful job that they do. We had an incident this week where some of you may know they found some people breaking into cars, and it angers me that people will bring guns into town and not. I thought they had to fix them so they were secure, but they stole a bunch of guns, and that just angers me. I had a neighbor I chewed out because he left his car unlocked with a gun in it, a loaded gun. Well, you don't know if the guy's 20 years old or 10 years old. You don't know who's going to look in that car, and that just infuriates me. I had to talk to the chief about it. So anyway, it's been an interesting night, and we look forward to. And by the way, I agree with Laverne about Huckabee. Everywhere I've lived, the organization has maintained the property. Either the schools or the county or whatever supplied the property, but the organizations mowed it, marked the fields, did whatever had to be done. Only the major upkeep, like in our case, the parking lot, that was our responsibility. I agree with that. But Huckabee, they charge to park. They have signs up to for raise money. Advertising, excuse me. So I think we do need to look at it. I know it's a sore subject for some people, and we'll get a lot of backlash, but I think it needs to be pushed in their direction. We have the land, we have the fields, but very few percentage of the residents in town get to use that field. Y'all have a great evening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Mr. Drake.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and tuning in. And I'd like to thank Public Works, the Fire Department, Police Department, and KSBC over there. The biggest part tonight is had a neighbor next door to me, his house got broke into last night. Walked by, front door was open, and had to call him, he was out of town. Police department showed up within just seconds of me calling. They looked through the house, everything seemed to be okay, but he's got some family coming in to check it out. We had another group of cars on the north side that was also broke into. They just go through, like Ms. Kinkin said, they just plunder through the cars. Everybody in town needs to lock their car and get security cameras or get Ring doorbell. They're $100. Also get motion sensor lights to install. Be very helpful. They had some on the south side. They caught 3 people. They're in jail tonight. But the ones on the north side, they caught the one before. The one that did it this last time has not been caught. It really shocked me when I saw that my neighbor's house was broke into. So I've got the cameras, I got the lights, got everything. I haven't had no problem. Nothing was taken under my house. But it's very important that we look out for each other as neighbors. So when you're walking around, if you see somebody don't fit the picture, call the police, let them handle it. It's not that you stereotype in a certain person or anybody, but let the police do their job. And I think we'll be fine. And with the ordinance we passed, if you use common sense, and I know John's going to use common sense in it, he's not going to go whack our trees down in our town. He's not. He's going to use common sense with it. And if you got a bush at the end of the street, it needs to go, or you got a bush too high at your driveway, it needs to go. Maybe you need to trim it because it could be your son backing out or your daughter backing out or your wife backing out and get creamed in the side. So think about that. And walking down the street, you don't need big boulders. You step off, you fall, you hit your head on it, you're dead. So we just want to keep everybody safe, keep the right of ways open, and to a degree where they can be used by everybody. It's public land. We don't want to take anybody's public rights away. No constitutional right. It's not your property to say what you want to put on it. It has to be done within reason, and you can get an approachment permit if you want one for something that you want to put out there. So you can come by and apply for it and see if it can be done. But anyway, have a good night. We'll all see you next time.
Okay, before I give my final comments, I'd like to invite Chief Clements up from the fire department. He says that he'd like to have a minute or two with us.
And I know I'm the last thing before everybody goes home, so I will make this
Don't
quick.
be windy.
I will not be windy. I get accused of being windy, and I will not be windy. But I do appreciate the time to be able to talk a little bit about the fire department. So thank you, Mayor and Council, Mr. Shanahan, for giving me this quick opportunity. And before I start, I'd like to have Deputy Chief Carter and our volunteer captain, Evan D'Alessandro, please come up here and join me. It's hard to believe that I have been here a year. It has gone by very, very quickly. I will tell you that I am as excited today as I was the first day I started here to be the fire chief of Surfside Beach. I hear all these folks come up here and talk and address issues to council. We deal with it as department heads. Listen to John Adair eloquently talk about his department and answer questions and all that. It's refreshing to be part of such a great team of department heads and working with Bill. So we're very appreciative of that. And this is a great place to live, regardless of all the things that and challenges that we faced. So a year's gone by quick, and I thank you for the opportunity again. One of the first things that we did when I became the fire chief as a group was we looked at our fire department organization. We did an internal audit to determine what were some of the things that we were doing well, what were some of the things that we needed to improve upon. And any organization has things that need to be improved and challenges that we faced. We realized very, very quickly that we needed to rebrand and refocus the fire department. There are tremendous people, career and volunteer members that work at the fire department. Evan's standing here, and some of the staff is standing behind me. And we are very fortunate to have these folks. But we knew that we needed to do a little bit something different. There's many expectations and many processes that go in place when you start to rebrand and start to look at the climate and the culture of your organization. And we started with a patch. We started with the patch that is on our uniforms that all of the members will wear. And if you look at the very definition of a patch, it's a piece of cloth or material that mends or strengthens a weak point. That's what a patch does. Now, for the fire service, it represents much more than that. It represents pride and it represents loyalty to our organization and to this town of Surfside Beach. So this evening, we want to share with you our new patch, our new Surfside Beach patch. So Evan and Larry are going to hand out a plaque that has our patch on it to each council members. There's also going to be one that is going to hang at Town Hall. And the inscription on the patch, on the plaque reads this. It says, "This patch symbolizes a new chapter for the Surfside Beach Fire Department, and it reaffirms our commitment to the profession in the town of Surfside Beach." So we've refocused and we are rebranding, and we try to do tremendous work each day along with all of the departments that are here in Surfside Beach. So we appreciate the opportunity to present you all with this plaque, and we thank you for the support. We certainly thank the community for all their support because, you know, without them, we're not up here. So we are very, very appreciative of that. So thank you again for the couple minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
I'd
Yeah.
like to thank the chief, the fire department. Listen, without y'all, we're nothing. We do appreciate everything that y'all do, the police department does in this town. Believe us.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I thank you guys for that. My final thing is, don't forget that we have the beach sweep this weekend, and it's going to be the biggest beach sweep and the most important beach sweep that you can go to. So that's at 9 o'clock on Saturday. And don't forget that we have, coming in September, we have the Celebrate Surfside that's coming. We've got a lot of stuff. Just keep an eye open for my Friday update, and you'll learn more about it. So anybody that's not getting the newsletter or getting my update, please let Town Hall know and get your name put on the list. So with that, I thank you very much, and we will see you next time. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.